Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brother and sisters. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk is back. Now, this is a small video, but it's an important one. I was requested a while back by someone in the comments section who made a very good point about the Errol Spence Manny Pacquiao fight coming up, right? And it is a call from all of boxing for us to get a fair fight. In other words, well, let's just put it this way. I initially thought, and Richard Dwyer, check out his channel, says some good points. Richard Dwyer and me both sort of have this impression sometimes. This is David and Goliath, this fight, right? Pacquiao and Spence. Now, the crowd is going to be a Manny Pacquiao crowd. But it was a Manny Pacquiao crowd against Timothy Bradley. We know what happened. It was a Manny Pacquiao crowd against Jeff Horn. Even Australians wanted Manny Pacquiao to win. We all know what happened. There was fights in the past. I think there was a fight where Manny Pacquiao was hit constantly low. And in the end, off a cut, the fight was declared a non-contest when Manny really should have won. Manny, I think, was the fan favourite in that fight. We also see what happened there. In close fights, the first Eric Morales fight. Now, I don't mind if you scored that for Eric Morales. No problem. But that was a close fight. It did not go Manny Pacquiao's way. And although back at that time I think that Manny Pacquiao was not the global star he is today, he still had a sizable Filipino audience behind him. So what am I saying? The public and the fans give Manny Pacquiao the credit. But the powers that be in boxing sometimes don't. Manny Pacquiao is a Hall of Fame fighter, a great fighter. You know his achievements. I don't have to roll them out. But we also must remember he's also a massive cash cow. Massive. Because of the fan base. They bring in the numbers. Not just Filipinos, you, me, Americans. Well, he's a worldwide star. He's, like a Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali type figure. So what reason would a clear victory for Manny Pacquiao over Timothy Bradley? What reason would the judges rob Manny Pacquiao? It's not the people that are watching the fight, those that know what they're talking about. It's certainly not the fans that are putting the money into the occasion and the event. It's the boxing establishment. Manny Pacquiao probably brought the biggest audience in the history of Brisbane, Australia with him. The stats said it all. He outlanded Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn seemingly didn't land much. Yes, it was a rough and tumble fight. But Jeff Horn was allowed to do things in that fight that I don't even think Errol Spence is going to be allowed to do in this up-and-coming fight. Now, Manny Pacquiao was the money in that fight. So it makes you wonder. Why did they, discredit Manny Pacquiao in that fight? I'll tell you what it is. It was the boxing establishment again. So where am I going with this? We call on fair judges for this Errol Spence fight. We call on a fair referee for this Errol Spence fight. A referee that will see when things, whether they be fouls, low blows, headbutts, etc., is going on, that he puts a stop to it. Because you watch, Terence Crawford made light work of Jeff Horn when he come to America. But the referee in the United States did not allow Jeff Horn to do a fraction of the things Jeff Horn was allowed to do in Australia v Manny Pacquiao. Now, I think Manny Pacquiao softened Jeff Horn up for Terence Crawford anyway. Jeff Horn took such a beating at times in that fight, particularly in round 9. But it goes to show, every time Jeff Horn tried to do some of his dirty tactics in that fight, the referee did a good job and said, I don't think so, buddy. You're allowed to fight your fight. You're allowed to fight on the inside, but this is not MMA. And he broke it up. And that gave Terence Crawford the chance to fight his fight. Manny was not allowed to really fight his fight in Brisbane, Australia, and yet still won. Still really won that fight. So, I'm not accusing Errol Spence. If a fighter is allowed to get away with things in the heat of the moment, they will try and do it. They will. But if low blows are fired, I want to see a referee, putting people in line. In other words, that is not going to happen, boy. You keep doing that 2 times and I'm taking a point off. Never mind 3. You are not wrestling. This is boxing. Fists, not heads. Body shots, not low blows. And the guy in this fight that has been accused on mountains of occasions of doing this, I'll just say this, it's not Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is not really known as a dirty fighter in any way, stretch of the imagination. Right? If Manny Pacquiao is to be beaten on August 21st, we want to see it done fairly. If Errol Spence is beaten August 21st, we want to see it done fairly. And we want the judges' scorecards, if it goes the distance, to reflect the winner. The true winner, not the boxing establishment winner. Because let me tell you this, boxing will not transcend Manny Pacquiao. The Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao era will not end if Manny Pacquiao gets robbed. It won't. You will not have a new start. You see, this is why the Oscar De La Hoya fight, there was a new beginning when Manny Pacquiao beat him. Because he beat him very clearly, fair and square. In that ring, within the rules. People could accept that and move on to the new star. When Manny Pacquiao was robbed years later against Timothy Bradley. Now, this is not Timothy Bradley's fault. Timothy Bradley, an esteemed fighter in his own right, won 5 world titles in 2 weight classes, was once considered in the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. All that was overshadowed because of that controversy. And it took its toll on Timothy Bradley's mental health. So much so that he fought Ruslan Pravotnikov and fought the wrong fight and nearly got himself seriously hurt. I don't think Timothy Bradley wanted those scorecards. Yeah, he didn't say it publicly, but I could see in his eyes, I wish this would not have happened. Because Bradley, even though he loses to Pacquiao, that takes nothing away from his ability. Bradley could have gone on that night and still done wonders in the sport. He went on to beat Marquez, didn't he? And many others. So there is a case in point. But the sport did not transcend Manny Pacquiao that night. The fans suddenly didn't turn to Timothy Bradley. They turned on him. They turned on Bradley. In Australia, the sport did not transcend Manny Pacquiao to Jeff Horn. Because Australians, all the pundits, the media, the fans, they all thought Manny Pacquiao was treated unfairly. So therefore, Jeff Horn could not move forward. The fans were still with Manny Pacquiao because they saw him as the true winner. The audience counts, guys. They are the bread and butter. We're still waiting. It hasn't happened with Terence Crawford. It hasn't happened with Keith Thurman yet. It hasn't happened with Errol Spence. We are still waiting for the man to be able to take the superstar role of the welterweight division and boxing as a whole from a Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. They are still the most talked about guys in world boxing. In world boxing. Anthony Joshua, yes, and Canelo, but they're only very domestic. Anthony Joshua is big-ish in the States and in the UK, but Pacquiao's talked about all over Asia, talked about in the UK. Same with Mayweather because they're both linked together. But until these guys, if Errol Spence does not beat Manny Pacquiao fairly, if this fight is controversial, it is not going to be good for Errol Spence. This is what I'm trying to point out. Manny Pacquiao has done what he's done. That can never be erased. But if, David is robbed by Goliath, right? The public have got eyes. The boxing pundits have got eyes. You and me have got eyes. We'll know who has really won that fight. Never mind what the judges say. And Errol Spence will get a lot of backlash, which he does not deserve. But this is what the public do. They take it out on the fighter because the politics has done something damaging and give an unfair decision. They turn on the fighter, the public, because the fighter's the one in the public face. They're the spear. They don't see the background, what goes on. So I call for fair refereeing in this fight. I call for fair judging in this fight. If Errol Spence or Manny Pacquiao is to whoever wins, we want to see it done fairly. Here's the thing. Say Errol Spence is on the wrong side of a decision in this fight. You know what people are going to say, don't you? Well, Manny Pacquiao's been, robbed so many times. It's about time he got one go his way. So Errol Spence has to beat Manny Pacquiao clearly and decisively. If this is a 7-5 fight, we could talk forever then who won. You'd be right either way because it's a close fight. But Errol Spence, he needs to make that statement. This needs to be a statement victory for him to take that torch and move forward. If not, we are going to be stuck in the Groundhog Day of Manny Pacquiao's legendary career forever. Guys, it's been 11 years, 12 years since he knocked out Ricky Hatton. The fans are still... It's like he's a new fighter. The fan base right now should be with Errol Spence, not with Manny Pacquiao, but it isn't. It's like Manny Pacquiao is the new kid on the block, and Errol Spence is the guy on the way out. So, it needs to be fair. It needs to be fair, this. And it's important for the sport. Promoters come and go. Fighters come and go. But the integrity of the sport is eternal. And in recent times, in certain fights, and you know which ones they are, not just with Pacquiao, but Gennady Golovkin and the sort, its reputation has took a bit of a pounding. There are now people... You see, boxing used to be so mainstream. So mainstream. Now, of course, yeah, they took it to pay-per-view. They put it on different networks, etc. And that took it away from, the mainstream channels. The terrestrial channels. But that's not the only reason why I know people that don't watch boxing anymore. Do you know what I've heard many people say to me? Oh, I don't watch that sport anymore. And I say, why? Well, it's fixed. That's what they say. They don't just not watch because it's on pay-per-view and they don't want to pay for it. There are many people that say, I won't pay for boxing anymore, or I won't watch boxing, I won't give my time or money to it because it is fixed. This needs to show the best of the sport, this fight. This needs to be classy, this fight, in terms of judging, refereeing, how the fighters behave with each other, which I'm very glad that Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao have given nothing but respect for each other. I think they realise this, these two guys. I think they know what's on the line here. We have a chance for history on either side. We have the great all-time great passing the torch on if he's to be beaten. Or we have the great all-time great pulling something off that nobody has ever done in the welterweight division before. But the thing in the middle, the controversial bit, that is worrying me. As I said, me and Richard Dwyer, we sometimes get caught up with, oh my God, the old guy, he's in a close round, he's competitive with Errol Spence. The judges are going to give it the old guy. Of course, we can presume that. We can presume that the blue chip fighter is going to get that round. But it's happened on a few occasions. And there's not many blue chip fighters more than Manny Pacquiao where the round went against him. Right? It never happened with Floyd Mayweather. Castillo, in many people's eyes, beat him. Floyd Mayweather got the decision. A close fight with Marcus Maidana makes you wonder if that fight was anywhere but the United States. Maidana might have got that fight. Put it this way. If Manny Pacquiao would have performed like that against Marcus Maidana and Castillo, the judges wouldn't have given Manny Pacquiao them fights. But of course, again, we've got eyes. That was a long time ago, that Castillo fight. Millions of boxing fans still see that as a defeat for Floyd Mayweather. It doesn't matter about what the record books say. We live in a technology age where we have picture, we have sound, we have HD. We can look back. And no matter what those judges said, we see what we see. This is no different. They're not hiding anything. They're just hurting the sport even more. One last point on a lighter note. I have been being corrected recently by some of you subscribers and viewers for my word stamina. And I say stamina. Well, let me tell you something. This is what me and Senator Manny have in common. The only thing we have in common. I say stamina, not stamina. He says aggression, not aggression. There's many people that's wanted to correct Manny Pacquiao on aggression or aggressiveness and say it's aggression, sir. But none of them's got the guts to do it. Nobody wants to risk receiving that big straight left. Or the Manila Ice. So the Manila Ice to me is the vanilla ice. Stamina to me is stamina. And aggression to the Senator Manny Pacquiao is aggression. And that's what makes me and the Senator unique. Just thought I'd get that in there. No, I'm joking. I will say stamina from now on. Stamina. I hope you are happy. But please, don't make Manny Pacquiao angry by trying to force him to say aggression. Because you may end up like Keith Thurman and receive the aggression. And this is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. Let's hope for a fair fight for the sport of boxing. How about brothers and sisters?